It's going to start rolling.
You deliberately recording that?
Behold, habanero peppers coated in ghost pepper dust. We're going to eat these.
I already had to listen to
You're-
all their albums.
You're allergic to nightshades. So I have modified the rules by changing nothing at all. You have to eat this. The first one to tap out and imbibe in the bread and milk has to tell a secret on the air. Okay, Joe has eaten the bread. Go ahead. What's your secret?
My secret? I don't want to.
No, you have to.
I didn't vote yesterday.
This is Deep Dive Divas. Every episode, myself and a guest diva listen to every blessed studio album by an artist of their choosing and find and share our findings with you. This is a highly edited podcast. I guess we don't need any of this shit now because you ruined everything.
Sorry.
Do you still want to do it? Okay.
Let's see you do it first.
Will you tell a secret on the air?
I can't think of a secret, man. I'm kind of an open book.
Okay, do you see how this isn't sweetening the pot for me at all?
I get that, yeah.
And now I have to drink 3 glasses of milk. The year is 1977. And we are in Fairfax High School, which is just off the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles, California. Hollywood.
Tinseltown.
One young man named Anthony Kiedis is in the 9th grade, and he has another ostensibly horny teen in a headlock. When another young man, a third party here, and also ostensibly a horny teen, one Michael Peter Balsery, Balls,
No wonder he changed it.
he sees this tableau of violence and goes, "Hey, stop that." And Anthony Kiedis and this young man, Michael Balsery, become best friends forever.
That's cute.
Now, as children, they get up to some, street urchin kind of stuff. Stealing pocket watches, bringing it back to Fagin, singing songs.
Asking for more, please.
Michael can't really, he's a very energetic little tyke with a T. He gets the nickname Flea because he bounces around like a flea. Can't sit still, that kid. And as students at Fairfax High School, they form a band entitled Tony Flo and the Miraculously Majestic Masters of Mayhem.
That's going to be a 2 from me.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to give that a 1. I mean, it's just more...
If you could give it a 0, would you?
I would. Can I give it a 0?
You have to ask Mother May I.
Mother, may I give it a 0?
No. Now, Anthony Kiedis is the singer of Tony Flo and the Miraculously Majestic Masters of Mayhem.
He's the MC.
Yes.
The mouth.
Michael, a.k.a. Flea,
Frontman.
plays the bass. And they take 2 guys from another LA band. The band is known as What Is This? With a question mark. Rate that on a scale of 1 to 10.
5.
Wow.
3.
The drummer is named Jack Irons. That's a 10 name.
Yeah, I like that it's a little sentence.
Sure. Jack And Hillel Slovak. Would you like to make any observational humor about his name?
No.
I think that would be insensitive.
Hillel Slovak plays guitar for the band. Their first show will be in front of about 30 people, as Anthony Kiedis claims in his autobiography entitled Scar Tissue. We will be quoting from this book extensively. And basically they improvise. The band is improvising music while Anthony Kiedis raps over it. And that's the set. And despite as awful as that sounds, they're actually asked back to perform the following week. At the second show, they decide this name is no good, and they come up with Red Hot Chili Peppers. Again, a band that does not have the word "the" in it. So, Red Hot Chili Peppers start playing around Los Angeles, and they record a 6-song demo, which is literally just a tape recorder that they put in the audience during the live shows. So you can imagine the quality must be pretty high. Well, it is, because they go up to a manager named Lindy Getz in November of 1983, who saw them perform at the Kit Kat Club with this cassette tape in hand. And Lindy Getz lands them a 7-album deal with EMI America.
7 albums?
Yes. Wow. There's an issue here, because this band that just signed a 7-record deal is comprised of 2 members who are in a different band, who 2 weeks prior to Red Hot Chili Peppers getting signed, their band, What Is This? ? Signed with MCA Records, and Jack Irons and Hillel Slovak quit the band. So now Anthony Kiedis and Flea are on the hook to record 7 albums without a band. So they pick up a guy named Jack Sherman on guitar, and the drummer of a band called The Weirdos, I won't even ask you to rate that, named Cliff
10.
Martinez, to play on this record. So they're a band who has played a couple of shows without really any songs written. They just improvise all the time. And they have a 7-record deal and no band.
What a time to be in the music business.
Sure is. It's like, do you want to be in this? Here you go. So they record their debut record entitled The Red Hot Chili Peppers, despite that not being the band's name. And it is released in August of 1984. It is produced, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is their first record. They are nobodies. By Andy Gill, who was the guitarist of Gang of Four.
I mean, you got Reagan money and cocaine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No one was thinking straight.
I don't have any of those things.
Well, it's not the 80s anymore.
Sure. You're right. We need to make America great again.
Re-elect Ronald Reagan.
Bring
him
back cocaine.
Bring him back.
4 more years.
4 more years. Andy Gill did not like their live sound. He thought even from Gang of Four standards that they were too rambunctious and chaotic. And he said, you should have like songs that could be played the same way over and over again. And the band hates this.
Was Anthony Kiedis also freestyling, or did he at least have lyrics?
Sometimes he would freestyle, sometimes he would have things he would revert back to, which I think are largely what the lyrics are on this first record.
Fly away like the soul of a crow. Your animated aura will begin to glow when you listen to my mind. It is time now to grow.
At any rate, the band hated this record. They hate Andy Gill. They think that he is bastardizing their music and their dream and their vision. Patrick, what did you think about the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I felt like it was torture. Funkless funk with white guy rap is not exactly good.
Mm-hmm. Sure. But aside from that, what's bad about it?
Just about everything.
This to me sounds like if the bands that made porn music in the 80s got a little more angry. That's kind of what this would sound like. As I went through this, the first song, this is my yuck icky song. The second song, this is my yuck icky song. Pretty much every song on the album I found to be more offensive than the previous one.
My yucky icky song is Mommy Where's Daddy?
Why?
Because it's yucky and icky.
Right here, girl. Well, sweet thing, you look so sad. Tip up, don't you know? Your daddy's bad. Give daddy a kiss, girl. Well, there ain't one problem I can't fix, 'cause your daddy's got a big old bag of chicken. Give him daddy a kiss.
I showed one of my friends this, and she said, I can't tell if this is disturbing or really disturbing. Despite this record being bad, it is massive on college radio and it gets extensive airplay on MTV, which stands for...
Mr. The Video.
They also sell 300,000 copies, which is just 200,000 short of going gold.
Has it gone gold in the
Oh,
intervening
yes.
decades? Yeah.
Throughout 1985, they will go on tour, and they are a band with a massively dedicated work ethic. They play 60 shows in 64 days, and tensions are starting to heat up. Anthony Kiedis and Jack Sherman get into a lot of disputes with one another, and Jack Sherman is fired in February. Shortly after he is fired, Hillel Slovak quits What Is This, the band that he left the Red Hot Chili Peppers for, and comes back to the band. Whereupon the band starts working on their second record, Freaky Styley, which will come out in August of 1985. It is produced by George Clinton of George Clinton and the Parliament
kidding me?
Funkadelic.
But if in our fears we don't learn to trust each other, and if in our greed you don't learn to share with your brother, you know that hate is gonna keep our multiplying.
That's also just like a lot of funk cred for a band with
No funk.
no funk.
No soul. They're like a breadstick, got no rhythm. George Clinton is producing this record, and not only that, members of the Parliament Funkadelic play on Freaky Styley. One
the horn section?
Maceo Parker plays saxophone,
Maceo.
and Fred Weasley, Fred Weasley from
Wow.
the Harry Potter series. Fred Wesley plays trombone. The band really likes working with George Clinton, and they should thank their goddamn lucky stars for this opportunity. What did you think of Freaky Styley in comparison to Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I liked the brass section. Otherwise, it was exactly the same.
It is almost identical. This is one of those records that I had to listen to more than my typical 3 times because
You did.
I couldn't tell when one song ended and the next began. This is not fun. This is abrasive. The lyrics they range from uninspired to scary. This album has no chart success and is considered a complete flop. The subsequent tour also brings almost no one out, and this entire endeavor is considered a massive failure. But the band really likes the album, and in Scar Tissue, Anthony Kiedis says, quote, "It so surpassed anything we thought we could have done that we were thinking we were on the road to enormity." The following year, in 1986, the band performs Black Eyed Blonde in the film Thrashin'. Have either of you heard of this movie?
What about skateboarding?
Skateboards make an appearance in it, but I don't know if that's what it's
I
about.
feel like I know it as like a skateboard movie.
Got it. They're also in the film Tough Guys. In both situations, they essentially just look very coked out as they play music.
The band that gets your pulses pounding, your senses reeling, and sets your mouth on fire. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Thrash Bash.
Did they have like Illuminati pushing their career or something?
This is a song that if I was making fun of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I would come up with.
I mean, they do look like they put on a good show. High energy.
Costumes.
Yeah, they look stupid. In the best kind of way.
It's expensive to look that stupid.
EMI says, okay, let's try this again. We're going to give you $5,000 to record a demo. Not even a full album. We just want a few more songs that we can market you with. The band works with Keith Levine of Public Image Limited as their producer.
I will say he was on hard times at this point.
George Clinton was probably on hard times
That's
in the early
true.
80s
Yeah,
as well.
Sure. The band selects, according to Anthony Kiedis, they select Keith Levine strictly on his love for drugs.
Yeah.
There you go.
That
They
makes sense.
take $2,000 out of this $5,000 and allot it for cocaine and heroin use.
You're hired.
Cliff Martinez is fired in April because he is so over the band and their antics at this time. But he won't quit, so they just get rid of him. Jack Irons then comes back to the band again. This results in the accidental reunion of the original lineup of the band. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are seriously messed up on drugs at this point, especially Anthony Kiedis and Hillel Slovak. Imagine $2,000 worth of cocaine and heroin in the 1980s. That's a lot.
It's a good time.
Sure. Anthony, quote, didn't have the same drive or desire to come up with ideas or lyrics, and he would oftentimes fall asleep during rehearsals because he was so strung out. The band courts Rick Rubin to record their third album, and Rick Rubin says, no, you guys are too messed up and unproductive. I can't work with
And
you.
he was still working with the Beastie Boys.
Yeah. The Beastie
Like
Boys.
the
were-
DMC and
Sure.
The Buddhist Beastie
true.
Boys.
it's true.
They go down the list of all these producers they want to work with, and they get shot down across the board. Again, they're coming off their second record, which no one heard, no one liked, except the band.
And the producers of the film Thrashin'.
Right. Their very last choice is a guy named Michael Beinhorn, who was a funk art guy from a band called Material. I never heard of them.
No.
Kiedis is at this point so horribly in the throes of his addiction that they have to simply stop recording at various times, and he even gets fired from the band for a brief stint here. He goes...
Wow. I want to go back.
The opportunity there, man.
Somehow, when this happened, LA Weekly named the Red Hot Chili Peppers the band of the year as they're like on the verge of breaking up and just had a massive flop. So Anthony Kiedis sees that they are named band of the year and says, I got to get my act together. So he goes to rehab. And while he is there, the band is like, quick, we got to get someone else in here before he comes back. So they audition a few frontmen. No one really takes. And Anthony Kiedis does get clean and rejoins the band for 50 days. Whereupon they write a bunch of new songs that are a lot harder than the past two records, a lot more punk influence on these than funk. And they record these songs in the basement of Capitol Records. And because he is so jazzed about these new songs and the promise of this new record, Anthony Kiedis goes right back to drugs less than 2 months after he is cleaned up. And we get to hear these songs on 1987's The Uplift Mofo Party Plan, which comes out in September of that year, and it will hit number 148 on the Billboard 200.
Really?
This record, again, I think sounds almost identical to the previous two, with the exception of slightly higher production value and a little bit harder. But aside from that, unintelligible lyrics that are creepy, offensive, and uncomfortable in every way.
The guitars are definitely heavier.
Sure.
And I didn't understand that. I'm glad to get the story behind
Why that
that.
happened.
Why all of a sudden they went from, little lickety quasi-funk licks to this, power chords.
Skinny Sweaty Man is my yuck icky song. It's really unpleasant, the vocal deliveries. Anthony Kiedis decides to take on a bunch of affects and does impersonations of various people in the song, and it's bizarre and confused.
He's just sweaty man in a green suit. He's half man and half cartoon, but the money don't be confused.
He's more wanted, no need to.
He's just sweaty man in a green suit. Face to face with the man in the moon. Has family actions, Dr. Stu. If you catch me in suit, please don't shoot. He's just sweaty man in a green suit. I was no one.
Following this record, they go on tour with Faith No More, who just put out their record, Introduce Yourself, if you're familiar. Anthony and Hillel are ever, as always, out of control, to the point where they actually just stop showing up to shows throughout this tour. They'll disappear where other members of the band do not know where they went. And once they finally find them, then they'll play a couple more shows. Then they'll get so messed up again that they just kind of disappear. And this is the cycle through pretty much the whole tour, which I'm sure endeared them greatly to Faith No More. At the conclusion of the tour, Hillel Slovak dies from a heroin overdose on June 25th, 1988. Kiedis is panicked by this and actually escapes Los Angeles and does not go to the funeral. He just skips town and wants nothing to do with this.
Real class act.
Guilty conscience.
Yeah. Jack Irons is so upset by all of this occurring that he just ups and leaves the band. He quits. And will fall into a depressive funk for a few years until he comes out of it, in which he will join a little band that formed a couple years before this, Pearl Jam.
Really?
So, there are now 2 openings on drums and guitar in Red Hot Chili Peppers. It is just Anthony Kiedis and Flea once again. So they are replaced by, again, member of the Parliament Funkadelic, Blackbird, and the Dead Kennedys drummer, D.H. Peligro.
Wow.
Anthony returns back to rehab for a month. He's going to get himself all back into fighting shape to do a new album and tour. And he goes and visits Slovak's grave as a part of his grieving process and also recovery from drugs. And the band goes out on tour. And everything's looking up. Anthony Kiedis is clean again. He's dealing with his grief and his unreconciled issues. And 3 days in, they fire Blackbird McKnight, who then gets into a verbal altercation with Anthony Kiedis and threatens to burn down his house.
Why'd they fire him?
Chemistry. They cited no chemistry between the two. Which seems like something you'd like to figure out during rehearsals before you book a tour, but what do I know? Peligro tells the other guys that there is this teenager who is a massive fan of the band, and while they're auditioning people, they should bring him out. And this teenager's name is John Frusciante, who will join the band in September. And by all accounts, the Red Hot Chili Peppers were like his favorite band. So he's this 18-year-old kid who then gets to be in his favorite band, which is also the first band he was in. He was a guitar player before this and obviously very talented, but had never really played with anyone before.
As someone who hasn't listened to that much Red Hot Chili Peppers music, I have the boilerplate opinion. He's good. I like John Frusciante. He's a good guitar player.
Yeah.
He's an excellent guitar player.
Yeah.
He's kind of got like a Hendrix flavor to him. Not nearly the skill, but the style. But
Less abandoned, but like he's studied that and he can do it really well.
I just can't help but think Anthony Kiedis destroyed him.
So, you're
You're onto something.
You
Sounds
are.
like.
In an interview with Rick Rubin, Flea recounts John Frusciante joining the band, and he says that Frusciante was kind of Kiedis' shadow. Anywhere Kiedis went, Frusciante was there. Anything he did as well. And he just seemed so much to look up to Anthony Kiedis and to want to earn his approval. This results in some turmoil with Flea, because Flea and Kiedis were such good friends. He felt like he was kind of being replaced. And then during these tours, Chad Smith and Flea were kind of like rhythm section was relegated to one room, and Kiedis and Frusciante were in another. And Flea really took that hard. Again, Flea had been best friends with this guy since they were 15 years old, you know?
I'm wondering if Anthony Kiedis' new sobriety had something to do with that.
I was actually wondering the opposite and wondering if Flea was now completely sober, and that's why Kiedis started hanging out with the kid that would actually enable him.
So, this is interesting because at this time, Kiedis does appear to be sober, so much so that he's actually up on his high horse, and they fire D.H. Peligro for his drug and alcohol use.
Hypocrisy, beautiful.
Kinda did know that.
So now they're auditioning new drummers, and they are approached by one Exene Cervenka from the band X, who says, I just met this kid from Detroit. He's got cut-off jeans, super long hair, bandana, looks like a hobo. He eats drums for breakfast, and you should audition him. So, enter one Chad Smith, who shows up to auditions in December of 1988, and the band is blown away by him. Anthony Kiedis recalls just laughing his ass off because he was so stoked during this audition that they were playing together and how fast it all gelled together. So pretty much as soon as Chad Smith goes home, he gets a phone call from the band, and they say, you're in, but you have to shave your head. We'll see ya at rehearsal. Chad Smith shows up to rehearsal without shaving his head, and they say, "Hey, you didn't shave your head." And he says, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that." And they say, "Okay, we respect that." And this is now the band for the next several decades. In 1989, the band begins working on their new record with this new formation, and they are still working with Beinhorn, the last choice of producers, and he is intent on the band making a hit. He wants them to put something out that's going to dominate the airwaves. And this really pisses off the band. They don't want to sell out. They want success, but they don't want to
They want
intentionally.
to be an upper tier regional band.
Right.
They want to play casinos on the West Coast.
So the band is working in this environment fraught with tension, and they record the record that will be known as Mother's Milk, which comes out on August 16th of 1989. I think there is a departure in the sound on this one. Again, the production value is ever higher quality. There's a lot more straight rock on it, I think, and more leaning into the punk. I think they failed miserably in trying to generate a massive hit. Nothing on there seems totally accessible.
What were the singles off of that?
Knock Me Down
Okay.
and Higher Ground.
Yeah.
So they didn't write Higher Ground, so I mean, that would be the closest thing, but that's a Stevie Wonder song.
But it was a hit, right?
Yeah, it goes to number 11 on the modern rock track.
It's a Stevie Wonder song.
Yep.
As long as you don't butcher it completely,
Sure,
it's going to
sure.
do
Well,
okay.
I believe their version was included in the Power Rangers soundtrack years later.
That was like a decade or so later, though, right?
Was it that much?
Stevie knows that nobody's gonna bring me down.
And Knock Me Down will go to number 6 on that same chart. And it will be certified gold the following year. But again, there doesn't appear to be anything on here that says we're doing pop music.
They accidentally mixed it so that Frusciante's vocals are on top of Kiedis's.
Right.
And I consider that a plus. It's a better song because at least Frusciante's trying to sing and not, as I wrote here, trying to jerk himself off, which is what Kiedis does.
Don't be afraid to show your friends that you're inside. Wait till the life don't have behind your false pride. It's a lie. You're lying. If you see me getting mad, if you see me getting high, knock me down. I'm not being alive. If you see me getting
So the band decides that they are very unhappy with being on their record label. So their manager, Lindy Getz, who's been with the band through their entire history, actually. I think he's kind of like the unsung hero of the band. Without him, you don't get that 7-record deal, which they also were able to then buy themselves out of. They leave EMI, and he gets them signed to Warner Brothers after this massive bidding war. So he knows how to pit record labels against each other to get the band the most money. And now that they are sober, they have kicked out the members of the band who did less drugs than Anthony Kiedis. They get Rick Rubin on board. Rick Rubin will produce 6 of the Red Hot Chili Peppers' 12 records. And the band goes to Laurel Canyon, Los Angeles,
All the
to
great
the
music was
former
written.
residence of one Harry Houdini in a place that is known as The Mansion, which is that home that Rick Rubin converted into a recording studio. And the band is super productive during this time period. They write songs pretty much every single day. Anthony said he would just be presented with music every day, and he would write lyrics to it, and they would have songs at the conclusion of every single day there. And this all culminates in 1991's Blood Sugar Sex Magic with a K.
Good title.
That's how you spell magic.
If you're cool. You know.
You can actually watch the entire recording process of this record in the documentary Funky Monks.
The entire process?
Well, probably not the whole. I'd imagine they probably didn't show all the times they went to the bathroom and stuff. But you can hear all that. Hey! On the record. I'm implying that it's shit.
I get it. No, I get
Now,
A lot of hits on that one.
yeah, I don't have any type of derision for this record.
Would you say it's their first good record?
I think it's the first thing they've done that resembles a good record.
like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. I don't ever wanna feel
Under the Bridge. Honestly, I think of Under the Bridge. For some reason, when I was in middle school, we used to dance to that. Like slow dance to it, which was always weird because I knew what the song was about.
It literally begins with the word, sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to dance to someone.
It was really bizarre, but we'd also dance to, what was that Eric Clapton song that was about
Tears in
Tears-
Heaven?
Yeah. When his kid died, like, yeah, it was the early 90s
People
was a
weren't
morbid
literate yet.
time. No,
Yeah.
the early 90s was just dark.
If I saw you in heaven, would it be the same? If I saw you in heaven.
Honestly, Suck My Kiss, I still think is fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a good song.
No, but it's
fun.
It's fun the same way Aerosmith is fun, but they write bad music.
Yeah. Give It Away Now is also fun, but like I can't decide whether I think the music is fun because it definitely has those cringy Anthony Kiedis lyrics to it. But that Juice Harp, it just makes me think of Snoopy, and I enjoy that. I don't know.
Okay.
And I think, you're really getting like Flea's really slappiness.
But working it in a way that's not like, look what I can
That's
do.
musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that comes from Frusciante knowing how to dance around it.
Sure.
Right.
Right. I Could Have Lied is my yummy, yummy song.
Really?
For me, I think you'll agree, they're the best when they're sad.
Yes, absolutely. Sad Anthony Kiedis is the only Anthony Kiedis that's tolerable.
And this, to me, I think is one of their most sad songs. It's like the song from this record that has the most substance.
It's a nice song.
Yeah.
Like it never changes what I feel. My face will never show what is now real. A mountain never seemed to have the need to speak. A look that shares.
So Give It Away wins the 1992 Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance with Vocal. It will also hit number 1 on the Modern Rock chart.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Why can't tell them from a kiss and or a bumper? Pretty little people in the sea of distress. Give you more to receive your less. Unimpressed by material excess. Love is free, love me, say
Because I was just thinking about Give It Away and how like one of the fun things about Give It Away is that it's a great default karaoke song.
Sure.
Because you don't have to do it well, and
don't have
no
to be able
one
to sing.
really knows what he's saying anyway,
Sure.
and it repeats itself a lot.
Yeah. That's a hot tip. Have you done this?
No, it was something that occurred to me while I was listening to it. I'm like, I could do, because I'm actually afraid of karaoke, but if I ever got stuck with karaoke, I think I might give that a shot. I might give it away.
I'm glad you got something from this process.
Under the Bridge will hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. That is the highest they will ever reach on the Billboard Hot 100. They'd never have a number 1 song. Wow. Blood Sugar Sex Magic is a massive hit. It hits 12 million copies that year. Rolling Stone names it the 310th best album out of 500 on the greatest albums of all time. The record as a whole will go to number 3 on the Billboard 200 within a year after its release. People keep buying it. So that's very uncommon that a year after an album comes out that it will actually keep moving up the charts.
It also has excellent album artwork, which is,
for sure.
underappreciated these days.
That's
Right.
the 4 faces with the
Yep.
little
Yeah.
designs.
Their tongues going out.
And the bunghole in the middle.
Yep. This will lead to a tour on which Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Smashing Pumpkins will all open for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. What a bill. Frashani has a awful time with the fame. He does not know how to cope with this. Again, he's significantly younger than other members of the band. Not so much now, but it's like, just consider if you're 18 and everyone else is in their mid-20s. That's a pretty big gap. And furthermore, they've been a band without you for longer. And they have a lot more experience with partying and drugs and everything. So he starts doing heroin in secret. He will sneak off from the band and shoot up. Because remember, they're purporting to be clean at this time. And this kind of comes to a head in 1992 when the band plays Saturday Night Live. I will play for you what happens on Saturday Night Live.
Ooh.
I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to seem, but... That was it. People didn't like that he did that.
What do you do?
He went, woo!
Yeah, he just goes woo in the middle of the song, but there's kind of already a woo. I think he was actually really in key, but this really upsets the band, and you can actually see in the video, like, Anthony Kiedis is really upset by this.
It sounded good.
Yeah, I thought so too. So Anthony Kiedis says in his memoirs, quote, "I had no idea what song he was playing or what key he was in. I started to sing in what I thought was the key, even if it wasn't the key he was playing in.
Anthony Kiedis sings in key?
I'm kidding.
I felt like I was getting stabbed in the back and hung out to dry in front of all of America." So, a few months after this, John Frusciante is playing a show in Tokyo with the band. He freaks out at them and quits. And in his recollection, he does an interview with a magazine called Diffuser, in which he recalls living in Los Angeles with... He has left the band, he's unemployed, and he is just living off of residuals, taking drugs, and living in complete and utter squalor and filth. The band attempts to replace him with a guy named Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction. He recently quit that band.
That pervert.
The issue is...
Oh, no? Dave Navarro's not on the level?
He's just a pervert. That's not a judgment. That's just a fact.
In 1990, Anthony Kiedis is charged with sexual battery and indecent exposure
Perversion.
at a concert at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. He is alleged to have exposed himself and rubbed his penis against a woman's face against her wishes. In the same year, Flea and Chad Smith are arrested also on charges of battery down in Florida during an MTV Spring Break performance. What could go wrong there? And Flea was also charged with disorderly conduct and solicitation to commit an unlawful and lascivious act. The act in question was that he picked up a 20-year-old woman physically, like he picked her up, and threw her into the sand, where Chad Smith forcibly took off the bottom of her bathing suit and slapped her on the butt.
Rapey.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
The woman said that Flea demanded that she perform oral sex on him before both Flea and Chad Smith were taken away by security. Flea was interviewed a few years later by Rolling Stone, in which he said he did verbally abuse her and that he was wrong for doing it, but there was nothing sexual about it. The band was, as a consequence, banned from performing the free scheduled concert at the State University of New York. So, back to our originally scheduled program. We have to get through one more terrible thing.
So you got to a terrible thing and you're like, oh, I forgot to mention that other
other
terrible thing.
Yes.
Got it.
Well,
So,
sorry, man, but
Go ahead.
you know, you got Anthony Kiedis exposing himself.
Was that,
Was
by
this
the way,
before or after Gym Socks?
this was way after.
So they've been doing the Gym Sock thing for
Yeah.
a while,
Mm-hmm.
and he got caught.
Chad Smith, before he joined on Mother's Milk, knew of the gym sock thing.
Oh, all right.
That's kind of
So
all
they-
he knew about the band.
So they were already into that.
I think it's okay to put your dick in a gym sock.
sure. Not
Think
heard
it
of
happened.
Who among us hasn't?
The ladies.
Lemon?
That's pretty presumptuous. I mean.
That's fair. Eh?
Did he do that on stage or did he do that in his personal life? The exposing himself thing.
That was on stage.
That was on stage. I thought it was. I just wanted to
Did the
clarify.
sock fall off, or
I think he was close until he had exposed himself. I don't think you can expose yourself if all you're wearing is a gym sock. You're
Yeah.
just. That's
why
what
is it
you are.
always Florida though? Right, Jets where Jim Morrison
Jim
got
Morrison,
nailed for.
right.
right?
Something in the water. So hot. Gotta get these clothes off.
The band attempts to replace John Frusciante with Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction.
Once when I was 5, I ain't just the event. I just sit
who just recently quit that band. The reason he quit that band is because of his substance abuse issues. So he is in a pretty bad state and not able to actually play.
Couldn't hang with Perry Farrell, huh?
Mm-hmm. They can't get Dave Navarro. They instead get this guy named Eric Marshall from the band Martial Law.
I've heard of them.
And they headline Lollapalooza with Eric Marshall. He's kind of like a footnote in Red Hot Chili Peppers history, but you can see him at this headlining show at Lollapalooza, as well as in the videos for Breaking the Girl and If You Have to Ask. He's
I can't
also
believe the band responsible for the songs Breaking the Girl and If You Have to Ask committed sexual assaults.
Eric Marshall also appears with the band on The Simpsons, the episode Krusty Gets Canceled with a K.
Ironic.
This is 92.
Simpsons predict everything.
Problem with some of your lyrics. Would you mind changing them for the show?
Forget you, clown.
Yeah, our lyrics are like our children, man. No way.
Well, okay. But here where you say, what I got, you gotta get and put it in you. How about just, what I'd like is I'd like to hug and kiss you.
Wow. That's much better. Everyone can enjoy that. Live from Springfield,
They perform Give It Away at the MTV Video Music Awards, where they will win 3 of the 7 awards they are nominated for. They will also play Give It Away at the Grammys, where they will win a Grammy for that song on that night as well. And then they fire Eric Marshall because he just doesn't feel like going to rehearsals. Every now and then they get a member who's just like, oh, I don't feel like it, man.
Those people get it. They're right.
So they audition.
This band sucks. I hate this band.
So they audition a whole new slew of replacement guitarists, including Buckethead.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And they get a call from Dave Navarro, who says, guys, I'm clean. So then Dave Navarro's in the band. And together they record their first song, Soul to Squeeze, which will become a hit, even though it's not on an album.
That would have been...
Yummy Yummy?
That would have been my Yummy Yummy.
Yep.
Yeah, that is my all-time favorite
It's a good
Chili
one.
Pepper song.
It's a good one.
It's so not a Chili Pepper song.
Sure.
What's that on, like, Conehead soundtrack?
I was literally just about to get to that. Yes, it's featured on the Conehead soundtrack and will go to number 1 on the U.S. Modern Rock chart. It feels more like a Jane's Addiction song.
It does.
That Anthony Kiedis snuck his way into.
It turned to demons of greed, that's me. Where I go, I just don't know. Like gotta take it slow. When I find my peace of mind, I'm gonna give you some of my good time. Today, love, smile on me.
Even the bass is a lot more toned down.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good song. Doesn't sound like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Dave Navarro makes his live debut with the band in 1994 at Woodstock. They'll play a couple pretty big festivals, including the Reading Festivals over in England.
Cheerio!
And they will open for the Rolling Stones on several dates on their tour. Dave Navarro does not seem to like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He
Shocking.
goes on interviews and on record and says that he doesn't like funk or jamming, which is kind of their two things.
The two things they claim to do,
Yeah,
anyway.
Sure. And it is at this time that Anthony Kiedis has a dental procedure in which he is prescribed Valium afterwards, which is an addictive sedative, which then is the gateway for him getting back onto heroin. So he relapses, and things come a lot slower than they used to with John Frusciante. From Scar Tissue, quote, John had been a true anomaly when it came to songwriting. I just figured that was how all guitar players were. That you showed them your lyrics and sang a little bit, and the next thing you knew, you had a song. So they are kind of stunned by the fact that it's not happening like that with Dave Navarro.
Navarro is just a professional musician who wants to be told what to do most of the time.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Or maybe wants the song to be like a song and not like a bunch of funky diddles.
So Anthony Kiedis is so disappointed with the way things are going, and he's in the throes of yet another relapse, that Flea has to step up and kind of take over a lot of songwriting responsibilities in the studio. He also is the one who sings on P. I don't know.
P is a delight.
It's very cute.
I love that song. I really do.
Him talking about how he's a little.
And
P.
once again, just like Frusciante, I kind of wish Flea would sing more.
Sure.
It might even slow down his bass playing a little bit, make it a little more musical if he had to think and sing at the same time.
Right.
I'm a little
In 1995, in September, One Hot Minute is released. You had a lot of good things to say about this record.
I love One Hot Minute, but I was like 14 when it came out. So it's kind of, it's like a coming of age album for me. And once
Do you
again,
think it's nostalgia on your part, or do you think that it is just better?
it was hard to decide because I hadn't listened to it in a really long time, and I put it on, and I really like the songs. I love Anthony Kiedis when he's sad. I think he's a much better. I think I like him when he's on the junk too. I think heroin addict, sad Anthony Kiedis is more of an artist and less of a jock douchebag. You got your rapey jock douchebag who wants to rap, and then you got your like junkie who actually has the soul of an artist and like actually looks like he could hang out with a guy like Flea.
Sure.
I like that guy better. He has to be sad. Like lots of artists are better off on the verge of suicide.
Right.
I don't know. It's just so I think
They're not always so great after.
I also think that album might be their even though it's like a huge departure from what they did before. I think either that album or the next one, Californication, are probably their Fade to Black album.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that? Like Metallica's Black Album.
Yeah.
A dialectic synthesis of artistic integrity and the commercial machine. Managing to put together an album that like is well edited, but
Sure.
still has youthful exuberance in it.
Right.
Those two albums kind of either. There's a weird because Frusciante comes back. It's kind of hard to decide which one it is.
Sure.
But both of them kind of are like the point where from that point on they're just a commercial band.
I also think there's a bit more psych sort of feel to it. It does have a little more spacey quality, I think, to it. They not everything is so like abusive and hitting you over the head. Like those first records are just an onslaught. Like it's sensory overload, frankly. Whereas this, there's a lot more space and openness to it. There's a lot of songs about death and drugs on this. As you said, it's the Sad Boy album. Tearjerker is actually about Kurt Cobain, who they would have been somewhat familiar with from having toured with Nirvana.
First time I saw you, you were sitting backstage in a dress, a perfect mess. You never knew this, but I wanted badly for you to requit my love.
My Friends is my Yummy Yummy song. Like I said, I can't decide whether or not it's nostalgia or whether or not but I do think it's a pretty good song. I don't know if it's a great song, but it's nostalgic to me, and it speaks to exactly what I was like when I was about 14, 15 when the album came out. All my friends were, in fact, on the verge of suicide, and most of them were junkies of some sort or another, and I would just kind of identify with the vibe of the song, and I do like Navarro's influence, putting a little space in the song, and a little structure. It's got actual, changes in it.
Right.
Rhythmic changes and empty space, and that's something that the Chili Peppers didn't do a whole lot of other than Under the Bridge.
Sure. I think Anthony Kiedis is also making a concerted effort to try to sing on this.
Yes, he is.
Depressed, I feel a question of your loneliness. Come back, 'cause I'll be on your side. You know I will. You know I will. Ex-girlfriend called me up.
You're not alone. This record will sell 8 million copies, but it is critically panned. The critics do not seem to care for this record at all. And I guess if you look at what else was coming out in 1995, it's not the most exciting thing. But if you look at it in the scope of this band's history, it is an interesting record.
Yeah, they certainly weren't on point.
Yeah.
I recall being judged by some of my more pretentious friends that I enjoyed that album as much as I did because it was a little more mainstream,
Sure.
and a little more out of off the pulse than what was coming out at that point. The heavier grunge stuff, and
For sure.
shit, at that point you're starting to flirt with new metal even.
Right. Now, the band is featured on Beavis and Butthead Do America, and Dave Navarro and Flea will play guitar and bass respectively on Alanis Morissette's hit You Ought to Know.
Really?
I had no idea.
Wow.
I've heard
That's
that,
like
yeah.
finding out that Jay-Z wrote most of Chronic 2000.
Did he?
He did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew that too.
Astounding.
It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you did to me. You ought to know.
So the band will embark on their tour following all these weird things that are happening. And Chad Smith almost immediately breaks his wrist, which as a drummer, not a great look. So the band has to postpone their shows for many months. And it won't be until 1997, about 8 months later, that the band will be able to resume any of their shows. So the touring gets back on track, but then the band keeps fighting with one another, getting injured again, and taking a lot of drugs, which leads to them canceling many of these shows. In the entire year of 1997, they play 3 concerts.
Navarro's still with them?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Until he's not. In 1998, Dave Navarro quits the band, citing creative differences. Anthony Kiedis
And the
cites...
fact that they're not working and he's not making any money.
Anthony Kiedis says that the feeling was mutual in his memoirs, and that's about all he says about it.
tool.
And now losing their guitar player, they almost break up entirely. They've been at this for, 15 years at this point, and
No one
the
likes
future,
them.
yeah, the future's looking pretty dismal. John Frusciante is still withering away in Los Angeles, now almost impoverished. He has gone through the money much faster than it can come in, and has massive health issues, aside from just like the cosmetics of his arms
Unhealthy
being...
and full of debt while doing heroin? I'm shocked.
It's every girl's dream. He has been so injured and sick that his arms are like irreparably scarred. His nose has to be reconstructed, and he needs several dental implants after an oral infection. This is all diagnosed only because Flea goes to him and sees the state he's in and convinces him to go to rehab, where he seeks medical treatment in January of 1998. In April, Flea visits him again, and he says he looks like a totally new man and invites him to rejoin the band. John Frusciante wells up with tears and says nothing would make him happier. And the band is back together again. They're hard at work throughout 1998, and in 1999, at the start of the summer, the album Californication will drop. There's a lot less rapping on it, a lot more singing. This is, I think, where all the work that Anthony Kiedis was trying to do on his voice on One Hot Minute, I think it starts to pay off, and he can actually strike a decent vocal affect at times.
I think it's a perfect pop record. I don't think it's good. Because that's not a compliment, in my opinion. I don't think there's a whole lot of art left in it. I think they found a formula somewhere in there that works for them, and they generated a whole bunch of songs that sound like the Chili Peppers and generated a bunch of money.
Yes, I was listening to a review of the latest Chili Peppers album today, where the gentleman said that his standard for a good Red Hot Chili Peppers album was if I could play it really loud by my pool and not have to worry about my neighbors thinking it's lame.
By that standard, Californication is perfect. It's a perfect album.
I think it's also one of their most cohesive albums, where it has a defined sound and doesn't deviate from it too much. But it's samey. One of my friends referred to it as like, it's just every song kind of sounds the same, to the point where sometimes I would be listening to one song on this, and I've heard these all so many times that I'm actually expecting a different chorus because the verses are so similar.
And even though Kiedis' vocals do, in fact, improve a bit there, he starts to actually, use a little bit of melody and actually sing a little bit. His talent for just gibberish word salad lyrics is just really out in the forefront in Californication. I mean, right down to the damn name of the album. It's just gibberish, like a high school beat poet.
Sure,
he's
or a fortune cookie.
Yeah, you just want to snap at him.
Now, this album, its 3 lead-off singles will all hit number 1 on the modern rock charts. Scar Tissue, Other Side, and Californication.
Scar tissue that I wish you saw. Sarcastic Mr. Know-It-All. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you, 'cause with the birds I'll share. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication.
It will sell 16 million copies that year, which makes it their best-selling album ever. Rolling Stone will name this 399 on their 500 greatest albums, so they're dominating the 300 bracket. And they will go on tour for the next 2 years, concluding with Woodstock 99,
Yep.
in which they were accused of inciting a riot in which rape, vandalism, robbery of ATMs and tractor trailers occur, all while they played their cover of Jimi Hendrix's Fire.
I'm pretty sure Fred Durst started the riot.
Sure.
And the Chili Peppers
continued it.
just played the soundtrack to what was already going on. I'm not going to blame the Chili Peppers for that.
They're
That was
fiddling
Limp Bizkit's fault.
As Rome
I blame
burns.
corporate America.
I said Limp Bizkit, didn't I?
Burn.
You wanna do it? You wanna do it?
Fuck you! You don't play with me and you won't get burned. I have only one to hit your desire. Oh, girl, let me slip it in your fire. Let me stand into 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 your fire.
The band is back together in 2001, and they are working on their next record after the tour. Anthony Kiedis said, quote, John was back to himself and brimming with confidence because he is on Viagra. Flea felt that he was being sidelined and fought a lot with Frusciante on this next record. He felt that they had a lot of creative differences, and Flea almost quits the band.
Is there like a romantic dynamic hiding in the background of this somehow?
I don't know. I think that Anthony Kiedis and Flea are in a very codependent relationship.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And the little kid ruins it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the band does make it through the recording process, and in 2002, in July, By the Way is released. This is the Red Hot Chili Peppers record that eluded me, because I knew the singles off of it, but I never heard it as a whole, and I love it. I think it is a very good album. Love it in terms of a Red Hot Chili Peppers record.
On that scale.
It went, after the abuse that I sat through, especially with those first records, this was such a breath of fresh air to me. It feels very indie rock to me. It's exponentially more melodic than I think anything before this. A lot of the like Flea's doing too much or Chad Smith's doing too much, that's all toned down. I think it's really John Frusciante's album.
Yeah, see, you're a fan of the indie sound,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I felt like By the Way was Californication with a little bit of an indie sound to it.
Okay.
And the indie sound eludes me. I don't.
Gotcha.
I do appreciate the slight melodic and harmonic complexities of the indie sound, but it doesn't do a damn thing for me.
Standing in line to see the show tonight, and there's a light on, heavy glow. By the way, I tried to say I'd be there, waiting for.
In 2003, the band will put out their greatest hits and not do anything else for a while. The band's all kind of doing their own separate stuff at this point, and this is the trend that they're going to get into, where it's not uncommon for 3, 5, 6 years to pass without them doing anything together.
Did you happen to see Flea's autobiography?
Yes.
It seems like he started doing a lot of traveling and soul searching, trying
Yeah.
to become a better person at this point.
Right.
Which certainly means staying away from Anthony Kiedis for long periods of time, hanging out with his wife instead.
So they do reassemble in 2005, and they start writing songs that will go on to be released the following year on the record Stadium Arcadium. This was initially intended to be a trilogy. This was meant to be 3 different
That
albums.
explains the nightmare length.
So instead, what listeners get is a 28-track double album, which comes out that May. So, Joe, you're saying this is like, for you, when you think the Red Hot Chili Peppers, this is what comes to mind?
Yeah, and I think at the time I had some vague notion of like, this band used to be cool, but now they're this. Like totemic, boring, like sad but empty, just like arena rock band version of themselves.
Okay.
Was it Snow?
Mm-hmm.
That song always really just struck me as like, I don't know, like the Nietzschean void that you stare into.
I like Snow.
To decide that the things that I tried were in my life just to get high on. When I sit alone, come get a little known, but I need more than myself this time. Step from the road to the sea to the sky, and I do believe that we rely on. When I lay it on, come get to play it on, all my life to sacrifice. Hey, oh, listen what I say, oh, I got your hey, oh, now listen what I say, oh.
I can't even recall at this point. Does that one have Danny California on it?
Yeah.
It does.
It's ironic that now that you've told me exactly what the situation was with the length of the album and all that shit, and you still got that Rick Rubin connection. It's kind of ironic that this would be their Wildflowers,
Right.
The Tom Petty Wildflowers,
Sure.
and they ripped off Tom Petty in that song.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say I like their Tom Petty ripoffs.
Hey, everybody should rip off Tom Petty. Tom
Yeah.
Petty writes beautiful melodies, slightly boring songs. Take his beautiful melodies and do something with them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they did that here, but
Alabama, she was wearing a hammer. Price they gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than coal. What in the world does your company take me for? Black bandana, sweet Louisiana.
I think Stadium Arcadium would be probably in my top 5 records of theirs if it were a third in length. I think they have 9 good songs on here, and if they just chopped out most of it, it would be a decent record.
That's a fair assessment. I got nothing to add because that sounds about covers it.
So, Stadium Arcadium will sell 7 million copies. It will rack up 5 Grammys, and Danny California hits number 1 on the Modern Rock chart, and number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. They will embark on their Stadium Arcadium World Tour, on which they add another guitarist to the band, a guy named Josh Klinghoffer. He plays guitar, keyboards, and does backing vocals, and he got hooked up with the gig because he is a friend of John Frusciante's. And they will play Saturday Night Live in May of that year, where one Tom Hanks was hosting. Not a fan?
I think Tom Hanks is overrated.
I know people who think Tom Hanks eats babies.
In 2008, the band announces they are taking a break. Especially for the original guys, there really hasn't been a great deal of time in between recording and touring and everything, especially not when they're sober. This is the point where Flea will enroll in music theory classes at the University of Southern California, and he begins playing piano, which the rest of their discography will feature heavily. He will also join the supergroup with Tom York entitled Atoms for Peace.
I felt completely free.
Chad Smith joins the supergroup Chickenfoot with Sammy Hagar, Joe Satriani, and Van Halen's Michael Anthony.
She's everything any country boy needs. Inside is outside, and what you see is what you got up your sleeve. Yeah.
John Frusciante puts out a solo record, and he really likes that. So much so that he quits the Red Hot Chili Peppers in July to focus on his solo career. But no one talks about it until December. This is communicated via MySpace. John Frusciante writes that everything's fine. I just want to work on my solo career. So the band moves on, and just a couple months later, they go into the studio. and they begin recording with Rick Rubin all the way through March 2011. Initially, this is also going to be a double album. I mean, they've been working on it for like over a year, so they have a lot of tracks. But Rick Rubin says, please no. And he gets them to cut it down to just 14 tracks.
Wow, Rick
which is
did
still
some editing.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So in 2011, the band puts out I'm With You. It's such a forgettable record. I think that Josh Klinghoffer is coming in. He's substantially younger than the rest of the band. And I think he's still hungry and ambitious. So I think it does have some cool guitar work on it. I just don't care. Most of this record is completely forgettable.
I certainly don't
I think
remember
this
it.
is the one with the fly on the front on top of a pill. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
that's I'm With You, isn't it?
This is that's what.
Oh,
we're on
okay,
right
yeah.
now.
See, look how
It's that
I
forgettable.
can't even remember it.
Good Lord. The Adventures of Rain Dance Maggie will actually hit number 1 on the singles chart, despite the
Isn't
name.
that just Danny California again?
It's pretty close.
We've got to make it rain somehow. She told me to and showed me what to do. A Maggie makes it in a cloud. I said, hey now. We've got to
And it is nominated for the Best Alt Grammy, and they will lose to Foo Fighters' Wasting Light, another album that I cannot remember a single
Race
thing
to the
from.
bottom right there.
They will go on tour. In 2012, they then have to postpone the tour because Anthony Kiedis gets foot surgery for injuries he sustained on the Stadium Arcadium tour. And they are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that year in 2012, 4 years after they're eligible. Do you boys like football?
Like American football?
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore.
Okay. Well, maybe you did in 2014.
I did.
Do you remember Super Bowl 48? Well, the Red
not
Hot...
really.
I don't remember who played the game, but I remember who played the halftime show, and it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Bruno Mars.
Wow.
And do you remember what happened as a consequence of the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing this?
Janet Jackson got canceled?
No. Different. They got a lot of shit for pre-recording their tracks.
Oh.
And Flea's defense was, the NFL made us do that, and Anthony Kiedis is actually singing, so step off. But yeah, they went so far as to not even plug anything into their instruments, so they just very obviously were not playing.
Sick.
In November of 2014, after they are disgraced by playing the Super Bowl, they will begin working on their next album, the first one that will not be produced by Rick Rubin since he started producing them. Instead, they will work with Danger Mouse. And Flea breaks his arm while he is skiing, so the album gets pushed back several months. In 2015, the album The Getaway comes out. It is inspired largely, the lyrics anyway, are inspired by a breakup that Anthony Kiedis was going through. He came out of a 2-year relationship. I think that is somewhat reflected. To me, the Red Hot Chili Peppers making an album with Danger Mouse at least piques my interest, and then the album itself totally lets me down. There is nothing interesting about this record. Their song Dark Necessities will be their 25th top 10 single on the Billboard Alternative Singles chart. That put them at the current record of 25 singles, and they broke U2, who was the previous record holder.
What do you say? Yeah! You don't know my mind. You don't know my kind. Dark necessities are part of my design. Tell the world that I'm
Olivia Wilde directed the music video for this song.
Okay.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And it will go to, the record goes to number 2 on the Billboard 200. Drake is number 1.
Sorry to hear that.
They go on tour to promote this album, and they have, this is kind of cool, one of their original drummers, Jack Irons, they have his band open up for them. At the conclusion of this tour, their sound engineer since 1991, one Dave Rat, said he's
a little
leaving the
bit
band.
nose, but-
He quit. In 2016, Anthony Kiedis is charged with sexually harassing Julie Farman. She's a music executive. In his autobiography, at this time, Anthony Kiedis also admits to being the boyfriend to a 14-year-old fan who was the daughter of a police chief in Louisiana. despite the fact that she told Anthony Kiedis that she was underage. Again, this is all recollected in his memoirs, and also embodied in the song Catholic Schoolgirls Rule. In 1986, he also dates the 16-year-old daughter of Donovan, Ione Skye. And the band kind of does nothing following the Getaway tour. In 2018, they get back together to record again, but that gets postponed because of the Woolsey fire in Los Angeles, which killed 3 people. They play a benefit for that, for the victims and the people who are displaced as a result of this. In 2019, they will play the 61st Grammy Awards and feature Post Malone on that song, Dark Necessities, we were just talking about. Sure. And he will...
Did he wear a coconut bra? A nice grass skirt?
Flower in his hair?
He, in kind, features them in his video for the song Wow.
Wow.
Exactly. That same year, they will play the Pyramids of Giza in March, which you can watch the whole performance of on YouTube.
The song or the place?
The place.
Wow.
Yeah. Klinghoffer puts out his solo album, To Be One With You, which features Flea and Jack Irons, the original drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He said Fleechers.
And in December of that same year, Josh Klinghoffer quits the band. And he is replaced again by John Frusciante, who is back. This does actually seem to be an amicable split. The band wrote that Josh is a beautiful musician who we respect and love, and he kind of confirmed this on Mark Maron, that there were no hard feelings.
So, like, the history of the Chili Peppers is essentially like the Scooby-Doo run between the doorways. Only everybody stops to take a nap because they're shot up.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. In 2021, they sell their entire back catalog for a cool $150 million. And then this year, in 2022, they are inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They get their star on it. And in April, they put out their 12th record, Unlimited Love, which was, again, produced by Rick Rubin. John Frusciante claimed that originally this was a 50-track album. To me, it's very much in line with the previous two, totally forgettable.
I heard they recorded it in Hawaii.
Ooh. Well, aloha mai.
I heard they rehearsed it outdoors.
In Hawaii?
In, like, the valley in Los Angeles.
Unlimited Love debuts at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and also takes the number 1 spot in 9 other countries. And as of now, that's where we're at with the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
They're on top of the world.
Hi, hello, it's me from the future. Just wanted to let you know. By the way, you look great. The Red Hot Chili Peppers announced on July 23rd of 2022, just a few months after we record this episode, that they are indeed putting out another album this year, which is set to release in just a few weeks from now on October 14th. So look out for that. Okay, bye. Each episode, we like to highlight the up-and-coming work of a discography developing diva. Today, that is Brett Krasnov. Brett Krasnov is a musician from Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, but has written and performed music all across these great United States. The song that we're about to hear was penned in the summer of 1978 in Tucson, Arizona, along with Hal Gelb of the band Giant Sand. It is now time to hold me like this is the last time. Every time you kiss me like you'll never see me again. With Brett Krasnov and his track, Fool for a Tear.
As that old sun sets, you recall the first time that you met, how it
all came to you with an oncoming cry. You hold back, then let it all fly. A steadfast heart lost in a sigh. She came to know you just to say goodbye. Because you're just a fool for a tear in the eye. You're a fool. Fool for a tear. Just a fool for a tear in the eye. Yeah, you're a fool for a tear. You're a fool for a tear. By the time that sun rose again, finding yourself that much closer to the end, you gave her a shoulder to cry on, but then she was gone. 'Cause you see, you're just a fool for a tear in the eye. You're a fool for a tear. You're just a fool for a tear in the eye. You're a fool. Oh, you're a fool for a tear. You're just a fool for a tear in the eye. You're a fool for a tear. You're a fool for a tear in the eye. You're a fool for a tear. You're a fool for a tear. Just a fool, 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 just a fool for a tear. Just a fool for a tear in the eye. You're a fool for a tear. You're a fool for a
You can hear more from Brett Krasnov. Contact us to submit your own music for consideration, view our citations, listen to a playlist of our favorite Red Hot Chili Pepper songs, and support Deep Dive Divas by following the links in this episode's show notes. We have ranked each studio album by Red Hot Chili Peppers on a scale of 1 to 10 as a whole. Pat, your favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers record was?
One Hot Minute.
Why?
Nostalgia, honestly. Also, as we discussed, it sounds the least like a Red Hot Chili Peppers album.
And that's a good thing.
And that's a very good thing.
Very good. Mine was By the Way. It sounds the least to me like any other Red Hot Chili Peppers record. I like that they tried something new, and I think it paid off for them. What's the worst Red Hot Chili Peppers record? This is unplumbed territory because, boy, you and I both have several way ties with ones.
I honestly do not recall which one I picked because it could have been any of the first three, but I don't think it was the third one. So was it Freaky Styley I chose?
You chose Freaky Styley.
I think I chose it specifically. Is that the one with the song that's called a blues and is not a blues?
Uh-huh.
That was the I ranked all three of those as a 1, but Freaky Styley has a song called Blues with no blues in it, and that was just the epitome of the cultural appropriation of Southern Californian morons, and it pissed me off. So if I could have given that one a 0, I'd have given it a 0 just for that.
I'm sorry to say it. One Hot Minute is my least favorite record. And let me tell you why.
Yes, please.
Because they knew better. Because they had proven by this time that they could make better records than what they gave us at that time. Yes, it is not nearly as much of an assault. It doesn't hurt me the way that those first 3 do, where it genuinely is overwhelming and anxiety-inducing. But I just wanted to like it, and it had promise. I love Dave Navarro, and it just never delivered for me.
Fair enough.
So it's the record that made me the most angry.
You were just disappointed in it.
I wasn't mad. I was mad. And I was disappointed. So you knew you didn't really like the Red Hot Chili Peppers going into this.
Yeah, I did.
Why did you choose them? 12 records is a lot, especially when some of them are several hours long.
I think I was traumatized by my first attempt, which was the Black Keys, which was a huge mistake. And I had just read Flea's autobiography, and I was feeling warm and fuzzy about Flea himself. And then I started listening and remembered just how much Anthony Kiedis drives me insane.
Pat,
yes,
thank you for coming on.
Man,
you
thanks
gave
for
us
having me.
so much to work with here, and we really enjoyed it. So we want to give you something in return, and that
boy.
is the chance to conquer your fear.
You go to hell.
This is happening.
Not doing the ooh. What I got, you gotta give it to your mama. What I got, you gotta give it to your papa. What I got, you gotta give it to your daughter till you do a little dance and then you drink a little water. What I got, you gotta get it, put it in you. What I got, you gotta get it, put it in you. What I got, you gotta get it, put it in you. Reeling with the feeling, don't stop, continue. Realize I don't wanna be a miser. Come fight with slime, we be the wiser.
Okay.
Young blood is the loving upriser. How come everybody wanna keep it like the Kaiser? Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. I can't tell if I'm a kingpin or a pauper. That's it, man.
4 more years. 4 more years.
4 more years.
Happy New Year.
For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. Which nobody can deny.